Q2 Metals is good at timing. Lithium prices have been heading upward in 2026. To kick off the year, the company reported in December a 457.4 meter continuous pegmatite at 1.65% lithium oxide, which Canaccord said was the best ever reported spodumene intercept. A mineral resource estimate is expected this month, along with an exploration target to sneak in some good drill result hits from the start of the 2026 drill campaign. Further ahead, the company is looking towards a preliminary economic assessment. Alicia Milne is the CEO, President and Director. Q2 Metals is advancing the Cisco Lithium project in the Nemaska region of Quebec. Alicia, welcome back to Mining Stock Daily.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
Alicia, remind us again, what is the Cisco project? Your team acquired this project about 2 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great loaded question. What is the Cisco project? We acquired it last February 2024, 2 years ago, February 2024, in the depths of a bad lithium market. We decided to acquire yet another lithium project, much to the dismay of our shareholders, who questioned my sanity at the time. But now they're very happy shareholders. So we acquired it in February, did some work on it that summer, got back out there over the winter time, did some pretty aggressive step outs just to continue testing what the area was, and then started doing infill drilling last summer into the fall, and that's what we're currently working on. So Cisco is a lithium deposit in the James Bay region of Quebec, Canada. It's in the Nemaska Cree territory. It's 150 kilometers away from the nearest town of Matagami, which is essentially the railhead for the Canadian National Railway. That rail then would take anything coming out of the James Bay region to, essentially your port systems, or down to there's a processing facility that they're building in a city called Bécancour, which is down on the St. Lawrence Seaway. Quite a few companies have land down there or building processing facilities. So, having that rail so close to us is amazing. There's other projects in the James Bay region that, according to their feasibility studies, are trucking, over 800 kilometers down past us to get to that same railhead. So our location is definitely a key. Cisco itself, though, we have been drilling on it. I think there's just over 34,000 meters that we've put in the ground. Last year, we put an exploration target out on Cisco just to sort of conceptualize what we were seeing with these widths of the intercepts that we're hitting. And what they estimated was that, and this is just conceptual, there was a minimum of 215 million tons of lithium in the ground there, to a maximum that I think was 329. So, conceptually speaking, if you put that on the global scale, that would rank Cisco in the top 10 of world's largest hard rock lithium deposits. I think at the minimum of that 250 million tons, that puts Cisco at number 5 or 6 largest. So, it's quite a big mineralized system, and that's, our goal is to put a resource out on it in the near term and keep moving it forward as fast as we can.
Talking about moving it forward, you have that mineral resource estimate coming out. You said that you wanted to extend the deadline on it for some geological modeling work, but the MRE is going to be due out soon.
Yeah, for sure. So I had originally sort of been telling people that we'd have it out Q1. So by the end of March 2026, we were going to have the resource estimate out. But we've now delayed that just by a few weeks because of the fact that drilling that we've been doing this winter. So we have 4 drill rigs up there at Cisco right now. What's coming out of the ground, we wanted to incorporate that into the resource. So, it's a large scale project, and just making sure that we're getting it right. We had to manually interpret some of the different pegmatite zones in there. And, for the most part, it is a continuous system, and there's extensions that we're finding at depth and then again along strike. So, it continues to deliver, and we just wanted to make sure that we incorporated some of that data into the resource estimate. And then at the same time, because of we don't have assays on hand for the winter drill program at this point. We'll be wrapping an exploration target around, some of visually what we're seeing.
Just so I get the timelines correct, Alicia, so that you do have the MRE coming out, and then that's going to be based on the 2025 drill campaign that you had. And into this year, you've had some pretty outstanding holes, and then you want to kind of capture that with the exploration target that you're going to be kind of filing it around the same time as the MRE.
Yes.
Okay. What's the plan after the MRE for? Sorry, Alicia, I should just kind of go back as well to please kind of highlight some of what has been exceptional in the 2026 campaign. I did mention what was in December, but what do you want to highlight that was particularly notable in 2026? Because
sure.
There were some good filings that you guys had.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at some of the cross sections on our news release or on the website, there was a couple holes that I think it's hole 77 hit, over 100-meter intercept in a place where we weren't even expecting it. We had always thought that the system sort of closed off up by that main CO1 outcrop. But, some of the drilling that we've done up there this winter and late last fall sort of shows that it's not stopping there. It sort of comes out to the side of it, to the west of the main outcrop there. So, that was a nice little bonus. Some of the hits that we're getting, are outside of what was anticipated in that mineralized zone that we got from the exploration target. Some of the drilling continues. There's a few holes that end in mineralization, and we're essentially at the extent of how deep we can drill with that drill rig. So I think one of the holes was like 800, 900 meters deep, and it still ended in mineralization. So, there's lots of upside, lots of potential for this project. But at some point, we do need to call it and say, okay, this is what we're putting the resource on. This is what we need to get out there to sort of benchmark ourselves to get that MRE in place so that we can compare ourselves to, what would now be our peers. And then using that MRE to move forward with a PEA, using the MRE to move forward with, potentially tapping into some government funding, which, to this point, a lot of places won't look at us because we don't have a resource out yet. So all things to consider as we move this forward.
Just pressing on that a bit more, Alicia. So what are you kind of looking at towards right now? Because you want to march out to a preliminary economic assessment. And I think that's later this year, maybe into next. But what do you think is going to be doing in terms of the drilling that you're going to be needed for meeting that? And then also, as well as how much resources are you going to have to put in terms of like getting more certainty around what you've seen in 2026?
Yeah, so the MRE is going to be based on drilling and assay results up until the end of 2025. So I believe there's 74 odd holes in there for about 33,000 meters or so, maybe slightly less than that. But all of the drilling that we're doing now is to essentially upgrade that resource and bring a lot of the inferred into indicated. So just tightening up the spacing. I think I mentioned that, in the winter of last year, we did some pretty aggressive step outs. So we were stepping out, 200 to 400 meters to continue to test to see what the extent of the system was. And now tightening that up. So bringing our drill spacing in right now to about 120, 125 meter step outs. And then continuing to infill that. So, in certain areas, we might get away with not having it as tight, but in other areas, we might need to narrow down to, 75 meter spacing. So continuing to infill drill is the key. And then I know Neil definitely has some other exploration targets he wants to hit, like up where that hole 77 was. So up near the top of CO1 to see where that goes. At this point, the system is still open in all directions. And as Chris likes to say, except up. But yeah, it's still open. We haven't closed off the system yet. So, more work will continue to define what exactly Cisco is.
You mentioned Neil. Neil is your geologist, correct?
Yes, he's our VP exploration.
How long is it taking to get drill results, Alicia?
To get assays, usually they're talking about 6 to 8 weeks. I anticipate that slowing down a bit to, more of the 8 to 10 weeks as we continue on into the summer months, just given the fact that everybody's going to be drilling this year. There was a lot of financings done in the latter half of 2025, and everybody's got money to spend. Everybody's got flow through money to spend. So, yeah, but for the most part, assays been trickling in slowly but surely.
Generally, what's the drill season up there?
We can drill almost year round. We do take 2 breaks. So there's and one's coming up. It's goose hunting season, so it's goose break is what we take. That's generally towards the end of April. So I think this year it's April 24th to about May 20th. Is we're not allowed to fly a helicopter, obviously. So we take a bit of a break there, and literally like it's a traditional hunting season. So everybody goes hunting, everybody's out and about doing stuff. So we take a break then. And then in the fall, there's a break that we usually take for moose hunting season. That's generally end of September to middle of October. But for the most part, you can drill year round. As I mentioned, we have 4 drill rigs up there now. It's cold. There's lots of snow, but they're still able to drill. We did take some time off over the Christmas, New Year's because there's not enough daylight essentially to do crew changes. So you're down to about 6 hours of daylight, I think, at that period of time. So and you want your crews to be home and enjoying the holiday season. So, but for the most part, yeah, we can drill year round.
Let's talk about metallurgy. So in your corporate presentation, you said the objective is a traditional lithium pegmatite flow sheet. How close are you to determining what type of process that you're going to be using? There's always, and Neil said it in another interview, the difference between dense media separation, which is kind of the preferred format, and then there's also flotation, which will be more expensive and then require a little bit more permitting as well as require some more time. Do you have any fix on that, what that might be?
Not at this point. I mean, it's still relatively early days. Like we did that first phase of met work last year. I know that the second phase is currently underway. So they're getting in more samples, more competent for them to do additional testing. So, there's always sort of trade-off studies that they'll be doing just to see if flotation does add to it, or is it just as easy for us to go with a DMS, a dense media separation process, just to get it processed and get it shipped out. These are all things that they'll be looking at with this next phase, and just continuing to keep doing additional network as we, continue to progress the project.
Where are you with permits? I believe that you want to build a road to the project. What does a road give you?
Yeah, so we put our permits in with the ministry, and I think that was in January. So generally speaking, permits are like 6 to 9 months. I think the permitting department is a little bit slow. But for the most part, yeah, we've put in our permits to build an access road, which would essentially bring us in off of that, the Billy Diamond Highway. So the highway actually cuts through the project at certain points. And there's a lot of forestry roads in the area, because it's, historically it's a forestry area. There's lots of companies in there harvesting trees. So building in off of one of those forestry roads, I think there's already 5 kilometers of forestry road there that we just tap into. So we have permits in, potentially get them back in the summertime. And then, we could look to be building a road in the late summer, early fall.
Hard rock lithium requires shipping massive tonnages of waste rock as well as a concentrate. I've noticed that you've mentioned it before that there's some logistical advantages that you have at Q2.
Yeah, for sure. So we are right near the town of Matagami, historic mining town. And as I said, the railhead for the CN Railway. That would essentially take anything in the James Bay region down to your ports in either Saguenay or Bécancour, Quebec City. to ship out to overseas for processing, or there is the town of Bécancour, which the Quebec government has been pushing forward as a battery hub. There's some bigger companies down there like General Motors, POSCO, EcoPro, Cisco Lithium, which is a Rio Tinto company, who actually have a conversion facility that they've been building down there. I believe it's on hold right now, but it's like 70% complete. So there's different ways of getting your product out, and we're just 150 kilometers away from that.
You mentioned it, but stepping back from the project, Alicia, how does the downstream look? What are you seeing right now in terms of lithium being processed for yourself and other people?
At PDAC this past year, it was quite busy with some of the end users coming out to meet with us or wanting to meet with us. I think they're actively looking ahead for the next year or two and trying to correct their supply-demand charts. I think there's going to be a need for more lithium sooner than a lot of people expected. And I think the end users are trying to secure additional product.
What's the general state of the lithium market right now? We were talking before this interview, the conferences that you've been attending. There's been the fast market shows, there's been the benchmark shows. Also been looking at what's some of the smartest analysis that you've seen just regarding what's happening with lithium.
I think the market is starting to uptick. I think there's more of a focus, especially now with the war that we have going on right now. There's more of a focus onto electric vehicles, onto battery storage systems. I think the market is starting to climb up. It's still relatively early days, and we're at a stage where for us, if the market peaks up in the near term, just given where we are stage wise, we might miss this next upturn of the lithium cycle. But on the same token, it will allow us to raise money at less dilutive. It's hard to say, to be honest.
How far do you want to take this project? Do you want to become a lithium miner?
Do I personally want to become a lithium miner? If I have to be, I could. Yeah. You know what? For the most part, though, I think Cisco. Once we get this resource out, once we get the PEA out, I think it is a significant strategic project. Not necessarily just for Canada, but potentially for North America. Just given our location, given the scale of it, at some point it will be a mine. I firmly believe that. If it's me doing it, sure. But I think it will be a mine at some point. So, right now, because we are still early days, it's just continuing to add to our team, bringing on additional people, bringing on mine builders. That's not unheard of. Recently, we brought on Keith Phillips, who was the former CEO of Piedmont Lithium, also a Wall Street banker. So having somebody with his knowledge and depth has been amazing. And just continuing to add to the team is really the goal right now to move us forward.
In your recent corporate presentation, you said that the company had $16.5 million in cash. That gets you to the preliminary economic assessment?
Yep, definitely. We have enough money to get there. I know Neil would love to have an endless budget, as would we all. But that is enough money for him to get the work done that he needs to do to get to that PEA.
Lastly, Alicia, what are the major milestones over the next 12 months? I think we talked about them, and then that was regarding the mineral resource estimate as well as the exploration target later this year, maybe into early next with PA. But is there any other milestones that we're missing, maybe perhaps regarding permitting? What do you think the news flow that you'd be expecting as you're drilling?
Yeah, for sure. Milestones. So immediately it'll be the MRE. That'll be out this month. And I think that'll be that's the biggest milestone for us right now, is to get that out there in the world, to be able to benchmark ourselves, to be able to draw the line in the sand, if you will, and be able to say, okay, here's where we are. This is what we're doing. We're drilling right now. So there's going to be assays coming out. We'll be back out there in May after goose hunting season to start doing our environmental baseline studies, moving things forward as much as we can, and sort of picking up some of the low-hanging fruit as well, doing desktop studies right now that will feed into the PEA. And then the PEA is going to be the next biggest milestone, I think. And that will be end of 2026, beginning of 2027.
Alicia, thanks for speaking with Mining Stock Daily.
Thank you for having me.
The information presented should not be considered investment advice. Mining Stock Daily and its affiliates are not responsible for any loss arising from any investment decision in connection with the material presented herein. Please do your own research or speak with a licensed financial representative before making any investment decisions.